A growing number of Democrats are expressing their displeasure with the Biden administration's handling of Israel's war in Gaza. One of them is Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen.
I was glad to see the president, at least as reported out, finally say to President Netanyahu that if you don't follow these, my requests, that there will be consequences. But the president and the White House have yet to lay out what consequences they have and they want to impose.
Wisconsin Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan joins us now. He is among a group of 40 Democrats on Capitol Hill who have signed a letter calling on the U.S. to halt weapons transfers to Israel. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. I know you were with the president today in Wisconsin. He was talking student loans, but did you get a chance to talk to him about this issue as well?
I did. I made sure that I told them that we should talk some more, that I've done town halls throughout the district. The last 2 weeks we've been home, and that a couple of reoccurring issues have come up, one of which is Gaza, and people are rightfully so concerned. They're seeing the horrific pictures of devastation, dead children, women, 33,000 people dead, 70% are women and children, and that people really want to make sure we're getting aid to them. So lots to do, and I wanted to make sure I got a chance to share that with the president.
Is there anything you can tell us about how he responded? Did you sense that his position is changing at all?
Yeah, I think he already has been very vocal about a changing position. And I think when you look at the letter we signed, by the way, reopened it today, and I think another 14 people last count have also signed on to it. So it's a growing letter. We're closing at the end of the day, but people are hearing it while we're home. People are saying, look, we've got to make sure that aid is getting to people. Over 200 aid workers have been killed. People are dying of starvation, children in Gaza. We've got to get food and water. And right now we're dropping it from the air and bringing it in for the sea. But honestly, we should be able to bring it through the checkpoints. Since Israel is a good friend of the United States, there's no reason that doesn't happen. A lot has to happen different. I think, the way Benjamin Netanyahu has run this counteroffensive, unfortunately, has turned into a collective punishment of Palestinians in general. And I think that's what I'm hearing from my constituents they're really concerned about.
So far, at least publicly, the White House has been rejecting your position. They say they're not cutting off military aid, that Israel is located in a tough neighborhood. It constantly faces challenges from Iran, from Iranian-backed groups. What is your response to that? I mean, this is a really major move you're suggesting for the U.S. government to cut off aid to Israel, a longtime ally.
Well, not cut off aid. What we're saying is you condition aid, first of all, so that we're not using bombs to kill children in Gaza. And second of all, let's make sure we're getting some real protections for the aid that is getting to people, food, water, medicine. And quite honestly, I've heard the president say a lot of this. I mean, he's not happy with the way Benjamin Netanyahu has run this war. And, at the end of the day, the long-standing United States position has been a two-state solution, recognizing a Israeli nation as well as a Palestinian nation. Unfortunately, Netanyahu does not agree with that. So he's not in sync with U.S. interests. I think it's time for a divorce with Benjamin Netanyahu. We can support the Israeli people as we should. We can support the Palestinian people. But just because some political leaders are not executing things in a way that I think my constituents in Wisconsin think is humane, it means something. And I think the president absolutely understands that.
You talked about the people you've been hearing from at these town halls. What has your message been to progressive voters who say they're considering staying home this November because of the president's stance on the war?
Well, staying home or voting for a third-party candidate often means that is giving an advantage to Donald Trump, right? If you're not voting for Joe Biden. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is bad at many, many things, including things like abortion, including things like economics. His tax cuts alone added to the national debt, and something like 83% of the money went to the top 1%. Donald Trump is not for the average family in Wisconsin, where Joe Biden has been reducing costs on healthcare and energy, and today on helping people with student loans. I mean, Joe Biden's fighting for that average family in Wisconsin, and we have to make sure that we're supporting him at the same time, making sure he's hearing from us on issues like Gaza. But, Donald Trump would be terrible in this area. I mean, you heard Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, say talked about what beautiful beachfront property is there. I mean, that's beyond Saturday Night Live ridicule.
Some Israel advocates have argued there shouldn't be a ceasefire until all the hostages are released. Do you agree with that position?
I'm hearing from a lot of people in Israel who want a ceasefire so you can get the hostages. And that's part of, I think, the mistake that Netanyahu made. He had the military protecting people with illegal settlements, Israelis who were making illegal settlements in Palestinian territory at the time of the attack. And I think, people, including many of the families, think that his eye wasn't on the ball. And I think that is something we have to really look at. Benjamin Netanyahu has not handled this even up to October 7th very well. This has been a boiling pot in Gaza for probably decades, but especially in the last few years. So again, I think what I'm hearing from people in my district is concern over the humanitarian conditions. And at the end of the day, I think we have to really hear those people who are, not a bunch of students or progressive advocates, but, my town halls are often attended by a lot of people on Social Security in small communities of 2,000 people. They're the ones who are raising this issue. And that tells me that I think public opinion is significantly different on this issue, and we need to follow that.
Do you think the White House policy on Israel has been clear? You have White House officials all the way up to the Secretary of State saying that if Israel's conduct of this war doesn't change, that U.S. policy is going to change somehow. Is that clear enough for you?
Joe Biden doesn't wear his foreign policy on his sleeve. He has a lot of very private conversations. I've seen this in other areas of how he operates. But he's starting to be more vocal because he's not seeing the results from Israel that he would like to see, and specifically from Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, let's face it, the average Israeli just doesn't want to have bombs raining on them from Gaza. The average Palestinian just wants to be treated with human dignity and respect, and they don't have that right now. They don't have the human rights they deserve. And that both, I think those populations want peace in the region. I just think the way this has been executed has been anything but done in a humanitarian way. And Joe Biden understands that, and he's been vocal on it. And he may not say everything that I'm saying out loud, but I think he's saying many of those things privately, because you can't not see these things happening.
Interesting. Congressman Mark Pocan of Wisconsin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you.